Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? Yes, it is that time of the week again, and it is always a pleasure to see each and every one of you guys and gals. We did take last week off because it was the Super Bowl. And for those of you that were saying that the Super Bowl was going to be boring, we are boycotting. Patrick Mahomes gets all the calls from the refs. Man, you missed out. You missed out. And with that, of course, everyone's eyes are on the big game, so they're not going to be watching little old 2Ks and I. So we decided to take the week off, and rightfully so. And I mean, it was perfect timing because the flu swept through my house, and now unfortunately, it is sweeping through the 2K's house. So hopefully, we get everyone healthy, back at it next week. But yes, I am still a little stuffed up, a little under the weather. Not like I shouldn't say under the weather. I'm definitely not 100%. So like I said, still a little congested, still a little coffee. So I do apologize if I do get into a little bit of a coughing fit or my nose starts running. But yeah, got a great show. Great show. Regardless of 2Ks is here or not, the show must go on. But yeah, we've got our first baseball show of 2025. And for those of you that have followed us for any amount of time, know that 9 times out of 10, the first baseball show is, excuse me, is the way too early prediction show. And we're going to have to table that because it's just not as fun without 2Ks here, and hopefully we can get C Hut back in the seat as well, so we can kind of give you our predictions, all of that. So keep an eye out for that because it is coming. Excuse me. Well, let's jump into some news. I got a little bit of news before I go into kind of my spiel here with the baseball talk. But yeah, I was talking to the TikTok crew over on TikTok Live. For those of you that are watching live, let me know what else you're watching. I mean, they're really, at least for me, I couldn't get any um, boys basketball on. Um, I got the SNL 50 episode or live episode going, which we'll talk a little bit about that before we jump into the baseball. But there was the NHL face off as well as the NBA All Star game, which I was telling the TikTok crew, you will not find me watching the NBA All Star game. I have a hard enough time trying to watch a regular NBA game because no one plays defense in the regular season. Why in the hell would they play defense in an all-star game? So, and the league has just become a pretty much a three-point shooting fiasco. And it's only further emphasized when you get these all-star teams together. There's, it's 175 to 173. And I'm I'm just not into it. I'm just not into it. Just not into it. And especially coming off uh the great Super Bowl that we saw. I mean, unless you were heavily vested in the Chiefs, which you did see a lot of their if you were betting live, I believe you saw that last score kind of got them to cover if you were betting live. If you did bet the over on a lot of Mahomes's personal things, those went over in pretty much garbage time. But I did want to take some time here in the news segment to kind of give you my once over because hell, it's been a week. I mean, we've heard the recap of the Super Bowl, everything just under a microscope by now. So as far as Turbo's concerned, um, if you guys go back on our Twitter feed, I said early on, had to be, it was definitely before halftime. It was definitely before halftime. I said, man, this game is feeling like the Super Bowl against the Bucks. And we pretty much saw the exact same thing. I mean, it was an absolute beatdown, regardless of what the final score was. Like I said, a lot of the Chiefs' scoring came in relatively garbage time, and at no point in time did the Chiefs have any momentum, any answers for the pass rush, which the Eagles got home with just the four down linemen. I mean, it was by far the worst game that Patrick Mahomes has played as a professional, which is bound to happen. Which is bound to happen. But to have it happen in the biggest stage when you're going for a three-peat, that's that's when it hurts. Excuse me. That's when it hurts the most, is when everyone's eyes are on you. And I mean, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. Big shout out to all of the, Sirianni and the boys with the Eagles. I mean, that was just a magical performance on how to not only confuse but stop. And because we were talking about leading up to that, you have to contain Patrick Mahomes, and they didn't contain him. They beat the hell out of him. They beat the absolute dog shit out of him, and it started from the opening, like the very first play. The very first play was the only first down they had until the third quarter. Let that sink in. I mean, this was an absolute beatdown. Absolute beatdown. I believe at halftime, Mahomes only had 20, like less than 30 yards passing. Now keep that in mind, because they got 12 or 13 yards on the first play of the game. First play of the game. So Vic Fangio put together one hell of a blueprint. Now everyone's like, well, no, Fangio put the blueprint out. That's how you beat Mahomes moving forward. Well, not every team can get home with just four people. Not every team has the dogs that they do in the secondary. Not every team has Saquon Barkley, which if you would have told Chiefs fans that you're going to keep Barkley under 100 yards rushing, I guarantee they thought they won the game. But it was vastly different. Vastly different. And now, like I said, excuse me, this has been digested and kind of thrown back at us all throughout the week. So there's a lot of people that are saying that, after this performance, Mahomes is toast. Mahomes is washed. He's not even going to come close to the number of Super Bowls that Brady has, because he's getting older. Kelsey's getting older. Andy Reid's getting older. And I think, honestly, this Chiefs team is going to come back next season and be ungodly. Ungodly. You have poked the bear. You figured him out. You poked the bear. You not even poked the bear. You slapped the shit out of him. You slapped the absolute shit out of him. And what we've seen with Patrick Mahomes, what have we seen that's just going to tell you he's just going to roll over and lie down and not come back bigger and better and ready to make a deep run again next year? Nothing. Nothing. It just so far it's been in his DNA to not only be the best but to beat the best. And it's completely naive to sit here and go, "Yep, after one bad game, he's washed. He's washed. Yep, he's absolutely completely washed." And if I'm not mistaken, Sportsbook, I want to say they're the betting favorites going into next year. NFL. Oh, excuse me. That has switched. The Eagles are plus 600 to repeat, and the Chiefs are plus 650. Tied with the Ravens, and Buffalo is plus 750. Lions plus 1,000. So if you're a Lions fan and you want to get the best price, I guarantee you better hit that number right now, plus 1,000, because I have a feeling it's only going to get smaller as not only the season approaches after the draft, and then once the season starts, you're going to see that number get smaller and smaller. So if you are a Lions fan and a betting person, I would hop on that. I would hop on that. But yeah, that's pretty much the tall and skinny of the Super Bowl kind of recap that I wanted to do. That's the part of this that sucks when we only do one show every Sunday, and the big event is happening while we're recording, or like I said last week, we took the week off. So By the time we get to talk about it, it's kind of old news, so I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. But I definitely did want to give you my opinion because yeah, Patrick Mahomes is not washed up. Is not washed up at all. He's 29 years old, for Christ's sake. He's 20. He's done all of this before the age of 30. Before the age of 30. Now, will he surpass Brady in the number of Super Bowls? Who knows? But as far as being washed, no, no, not even close. Not even close. Let's see here. And Mahomes is plus 800 to win the MVP next year. Lamar's plus 450, Josh Allen plus 550, Joe Burrow plus 650, and then Jaden Daniels plus 950, Jalen Hurts plus 1700. Plus 1700. So yeah, I mean, Mahomes is not going anywhere. I have a very good feeling that the front office and everyone is going to address the offensive line heavily this this offseason. And you're going to see a revamped offensive line with, I mean, depending on who stays, I'm not sure what the contract situation is with D Hop. I mean, even though he really didn't have a big part in pretty much the whole postseason, Hollywood Brown, I'm not really hip to what he's got going on, but Kelsey's there for at least 2 more years. I mean, there's been rumors of, this very stocked running back uh, class coming up in the draft. They're going to address that with at least one of these guys. So we shall see what's going forward because Andy Reid's not done. Andy Reid's not dumb either. And this team is only going to get reloaded and better and come out guns blazing in 2025. So if you're a Chiefs fan, I mean, granted, you've had a lot of success and you're going to have more success because this Patrick Mahomes is just that good. Patrick Mahomes is just that good. And no, he is not washed. He is not washed. Well, let's get into some baseball talk. Let's get into some baseball talk because that's why you came here. We're going to talk about some new faces in new places. Now, granted, there was a lot of a lot of shifting going on. But let's just talk about some of the more impactful ones, okay? And creme de la creme, the belle of the ball, we all knew was Juan Soto. Juan Soto signs pretty much an $800 million deal with the Mets to kind of get this whole free agency started. Yes, there were players that signed previous to that, like not Jack Flaherty, but Blake Snell and a handful of others. And it seemed like the rich kept getting richer in the Dodgers. And with all of this, deferred money and all of that talk, but let's take a look at what some of these other teams did. Okay, there's some that didn't do hardly anything, and there's some that did a whole lot. So let's hit on. I'm not going to go down every single team, but some of the more high profile free agents we're going to touch on here. So let's start off in the AL East with the Blue Jays. Their big signing of the offseason, even though they were in on the Juan Soto sweepstakes, they were pretty much almost matching dollar for dollar, year for year with what the Mets did. The only thing was that the Mets owner said, whatever the biggest deal is, we're going to add $50 million, which is what he did, along with some other escalators, some other perks, like his family getting a box in every home game, things of that nature. So they definitely made concessions to get him in there. But it was kind of like the Blue Jays could not give their money away. No one would sign with them until Anthony Santander signed a 5-year deal, and that was kind of their big splash in the in the free agent market. Like I said, it wasn't that they weren't willing to pay. It's just they just couldn't get any of the big guns to come across the border. And they did sign Max Scherzer. Now Max Scherzer is a little, let me see here. Blue Jays signed him to a 1-year, $15.5 million deal. Now, what's weird with him is he's still getting paid from the Dodgers, and he's still getting paid from one other team. So he's getting paid 3 times to play this year. So if you're Max Scherzer's bank account, you are doing fantastic. Fantastic. And as far it we'll see with the AL East here. This was a really weird division. Really weird division. Because the Orioles did next to nothing. Next to nothing. They saw their their ace in Corbin Burns leave and go to the Diamondbacks. They saw Santander sign in division with the Blue Jays. In division with the Blue Jays, and their big counter to that was 3-year deal for Tyler O'Neill, which Tyler O'Neill was with the Red Sox last year and played a very, very pivotal role in the success that the Red Sox had in the first part of the season last year. But with all of the good hitting performances that O'Neill has, he's almost a liability in the outfield, and it's always been the big knock on him is he can't stay healthy. So if that's your big splash with this young nucleus that is supposed to be the best in baseball, where's the pitching? Where's the pitching? I'll wait because they got a Japanese dude and that was it. Oh, and Charlie Morton, who's like 50 years old. So it's as far as where the Orioles kind of stack up in this very, very competitive AL East, you would think with this young core, you want to maximize the time that you have with them, especially when they're still under arbitration, where you can pay pay bigger contracts to bigger players. You'd think that'd be kind of a slam dunk here, but they honestly did not do that. They didn't do it. Didn't do it. So let's take a look at the Rays again. Not a lot of anything here. The Red Sox made a big splash just this week, signing Alex Bregman to a 3-year deal. They also traded for Garrett Crochet. They signed Walker Buehler. They signed Patrick Sandoval. They signed Aroldis Chapman, which I'm not stoked about, and filled in some other gaps with some trades for pitchers and stuff. Excuse me. But the Red Sox saw that not a lot of action was going on anywhere else. Anywhere else. And the major things with them was they needed a right-handed bat and some help with the pitching. And that's what they got. That's what they got. Up until the whole Bregman contract signing, a lot of Red Sox fans were like, what the hell is this team doing? We were supposedly in on the Juan Soto deal. They were, but they were light years beyond or light years apart as far as money was concerned. Every single big free agent the Red Sox were interested in or showed interest in, but never pulled the trigger on getting to the table, throwing your nuts on the table and be like, hey, this is our deal. We want to be the Red Sox of old. We want to bring in players and become more of a destination for free agents, because up until this point, there really wasn't. They were known, that pretty much since 2018, they didn't pay. They weren't paying anybody. They weren't paying anybody. They were inking 1 and 2 year deals with guys, and just kind of filling gaps until this fantastic young core actually makes it to the bigs. And we're seeing that this is going to be a big season for the Red Sox, not only with Bregman, which is the right-handed bat that they needed. They traded for Garrett Crochet, which is one of the best young pitchers, not named Paul Skeens, and didn't have to give up a whole lot in return to get him. Yes, there was one of the big three that went over in that deal, but not the two that they wanted to keep. Kyle Tila is a fantastic catching prospect, but when we're looking at the other two of the quote unquote big three, and Kristen Campbell and Roman Anthony, as well as Marcelo Meyer, if you want to put him in there. But they were able to keep those guys, which is what the whole time management has been saying, that they're trying, they want to get these guys up, they want to get them ready. We just have to tread water up until that point. And now it looks like they're putting their money where their mouth is. Now, it was only a 3-year deal for Bregman, which I can get behind. He was looking for 6, if not 7 years, and the Red Sox said nope. Nope. Because after the longer he's there, the older he's going to be. And it's not like he was coming off a career year last year. It was a relatively average year for Alex Bregman, but he wasn't blowing the doors off anybody. So to ink him for 6, if not 7 years, I was very scared, because that plugs a hole where one of these other, one of the other young kids are that were planning on coming up either this year, next year, or the year after. You've got this aging third baseman or second baseman, wherever he plays, sitting there plugging one of these holes at a very expensive price. So to get him for 3 years, opt out after year 1 and year 2. So it kind of works well for both parties. And there's a lot of talk. Well, did they overpay? Did they overpay? No. To pay a little bit more money in a shorter contract, in my opinion, right now, is better than less money with more years kind of added on to it. So I had no problem with it. No problem with it. Let's take a look at the Yankees to round out the AL East. Again, Yankees were, it was pretty much Yankees and Mets when it came to the Juan Soto sweepstakes. And what it came down to was the Yankees were not going to give him and his family the box that Soto had requested for his family, and the Mets were like, "Yep, we can do that. We can do that." So it was very close, but in the long run, the Yankees paid a very high price when it comes to prospects to basically get Juan Soto for 1 year, and you did not win the World Series. Didn't win the World Series with him. And from the sounds of it, none of his Yankee teammates reached out to him during this whole free agency period, which to me is asinine. Everyone's like, well, he changed his phone number. Okay. There's ways around that. There's ways around that. And if you're Aaron Judge, that's something that cannot go without being done. I'm sorry. But as soon as the Soto sweepstakes does not fall their way, they turn to Plan B, and Max Fried is the first signee of theirs for 8 years, bolstering that starting pitching staff. And then they made a bunch of trades and signed some 1-year deals for some aging players. I don't hate it. Devin Williams, they traded with the Brewers, who is quite possibly one of the best relief pitchers on the market this season. They trade with the Cubs to get Cody Bellinger, sign Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, just a bunch of random shit here. Now, you could argue, is Goldschmidt going to be a better fit than Anthony Rizzo? I don't know. Paul Goldschmidt was terrible last year. Rizzo was terrible the last couple years. So we shall see where that lands them. But aside from the Max Fried signing, this is not. I mean, they definitely had some players leave, because I mean, we talked about Soto. Gleyber Torres goes to the Tigers. Clay Holmes goes to the Mets. Nasty Nestor goes into that trade with the Brewers. Tommy Kahnle also goes to the Tigers. So there's a lot of players on this team that are no longer with them, and they've kind of filled these holes, I guess, with, I mean, other aging vets. Definitely weird. Definitely weird. Definitely not kind of the Yankees MO here, but we shall see. We shall see. Let's take a peek at the AL Central. AL Central. Guardians get Carlos Santana back. That's awesome. That's awesome. They really didn't do a whole lot. Really didn't do a whole lot. The Royals, again, didn't really do a whole lot. They got Jonathan India in a trade. I mean, cool. Cool. I mean, now you've got, possibly a very, very good double play tandem with Bobby Witt Jr. and Jonathan India for years to come, I guess. I guess. But again, not a whole lot of action. Not a whole lot of action. The Tigers made a little bit of noise. We talked about Glaber signing a 1-year deal there. Tommy Kahnle signing a 1-year deal there from the Yankees. Jack Flaherty re-signs with the team, which I think was an absolutely awesome fit. They've been, and 2Ks and I talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago, where the rumors of Spencer Torkelson being floated around as a possible trade. We haven't seen that yet. Whether that's going to become true or not, I don't know. But the main thing here that really needs to be addressed before even the first spring training game is extend Skubal. They have to extend Skubal. And while they're at it, while they have the checkbook out, let's extend Green as well. Let's keep these guys in-house. Your two best players. Keep these guys in-house. Keep just stop it. Stop it. Lock these guys in for a very long time. Especially Tarik Skubal. I mean, the dude just won the AL Triple Crown as well as the Cy Young, and he wouldn't have left the last game they played in the playoffs without a blank check saying, here, we want you to be a Tiger for the rest of your career. And they haven't done it. They haven't done it. So we shall see what's going to happen there. And the Twins, I mean, their biggest acquisition was Harrison Bader. So I mean, if you look at that, I mean, then White Sox are the White Sox. We're not even going to get into them. But as far as who won this division, it's got to be the Tigers. It's got to be the Tigers. So we shall see how the team reacts from having success last year, having playoff success last year, and where that leads them. So AL West, the Angels were busy. And if you rewind 5 years ago, if they make these acquisitions 5 years ago, holy shit, we're talking about the Angels being world beaters. World beaters. They signed Kikuchi to 3 years. Trade with the Braves for Jorge Soler. Signed Kenley Jansen. Signed Travis d'Arnaud. Signed Kyle Hendricks. Jan Moncada. I mean, like I said, 5 years ago, this would have been an amazing team. An amazing team. And I it is what it is. This team stinks. The Astros didn't really do a whole lot except they let a lot of their players go. I mean, they traded Kyle Tucker. They're arguably their best player. They traded for Kikuchi at the trade deadline. He leaves. Verlander's gone. They trade Ryan Presley, their closer. And then Verlander signs with the Giants. And what do? They made the trade with the Cubs, not only to get them Kyle Tucker, but they also get Isaac Paredes from the Cubs. And their big free agent deal was Christian Walker, which I'm not going to downplay. I really like Christian Walker as a player, but to sit here and tell me that this team knows the division they play in by far. They know they don't have to do a whole lot to keep pace with the other teams in this division. Now, if you're an Astros fan, you got to be telling yourself, well, how do we get past that? How do we get it, not only make the playoffs, but how do we get to the next step? It seemed, pretty much the only guy left from that dynasty is Altuve. So where does it? I get that these players get old, and I get that the reason you trade Kyle Tucker is you really don't think you'll be able to sign him next year. But man, you have to have a lot of confidence in your farm system if this is the team that you're running out right now. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. The A's signed Luis Severino, Gio Urshela. I mean, they made more sizable free agent acquisitions than the Astros did. Luis Severino, I think, is the highest APV of any player in A's history. And this A's team, I mean, go back 2 years when they were the laughing stock of baseball. They turned some heads last year. They extended Brent Rooker, which doesn't show up in this, but they extended him. Lawrence Butler, you're going to have a whole another year with him. And now you have what would seem to be an ace in Severino. So this team seems to be. I'm not saying they're going to be contending for the division by any means, but they're not going to be terrible. They're not going to be terrible. And speaking of terrible, let's talk about the Mariners' offense. This Mariners pitching staff is fantastic, but they had arguably not arguably historically one of the worst offenses in baseball history. It was between them and the White Sox as to who was 30, 29 and 30. Who was in the basement of these statistical categories, and hitting, and it constantly came up that the Mariners and the White Sox were the two worst across the board with this pitching staff that they have that is lights out and amazing. Their notable acquisition is Donovan Solano. Who the fuck is that? Who? I mean, this was a team that was supposed to be in on the polar bear, Pete Alonso. Nope. Not even close. Not even close. Now, the big question here with the Mariners is, are some of these young guys going to turn a corner and start hitting again? We shall see. We shall see. The Rangers were busy. The Rangers were busy. They re-signed Eovaldi very, very early. They signed Jock Peterson, Kyle Higashioka. And there's a lot of, they made a lot of moves, but they were busy, I think, for the sake of being busy. They were spending money for the sake of spending money. They didn't really, Eovaldi, yes, was a main concern for them. I get that. But as far as making any other, kind of splash deals, there really wasn't. Really wasn't. Let's switch over to the NL East. NL East. I think when it comes to acquisitions, as far as the Braves are concerned, they're going to get all their hurt guys back, which is huge. I mean, we're seeing Acuna Jr. just hitting the dog piss out of everything in batting practice. We're seeing Spencer Strider get on the mound and have some very, very, encouraging signs. Yes, they lost Max Fried, which was the big hit to them. But as far as kind of sneaky good, not really, a top name guy, I think them signing Jerkson Profar was huge. Huge. And especially for the 3-year deal that they got him was absolutely fantastic. If this Braves outfield stays healthy, they're going to be the best defensive outfield in baseball. And it's not even going to be close. Yes, Profar is way older than what we thought he would be when he reached this level of performance. He was supposed to be this guy, 16, 17 years old with the Rangers, coming out and just taking over baseball, and it never really happened. But I'm glad it did, because he's fun to watch. He's fun to watch, and the Braves getting him for the price that they did, there should be a lot of other teams going, hold on, we could have gotten Profar for that price? Seriously. A guy that can hit like that, a guy that can field like that. Granted, he doesn't have a huge track record of doing that year in and year out. But after the year that he had last year, I think a 3-year deal is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. So they didn't make a whole lot of splashy signings, but the ones that, especially the Profar deal, I love. I love. Now they watched a lot of other players leave, but it is what it is. Like I said, they're getting back all of their hurt players from last year, which is why they didn't perform the way a lot of us thought they would last year. Not even going to talk about the Marlins because who cares? Mets did a lot. So lock into this one. We already talked about Juan Soto. 15 years, basically $800 million. They re-signed Pete Alonso. They signed Clay Holmes. They re-signed Sean Manaea, which is huge. Signed Frankie Montas, AJ Minter, Jesse Winkler, Jose Siri. I mean, they, as far as like the number of acquisitions, I'm pretty sure it's either them or the Dodgers that had the most. Let's put it that way. But as far as impact, yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Anytime you're able to add Juan Soto to your lineup, it's going to make a big impact. It's going to make a big impact. The Nats didn't really do a whole lot. The Nats are the Nats. Let's just leave it at that. Phillies traded with the Marlins to get Jesus Luzardo. And that's pretty much they got Max Kepler. They signed 3 guys to 1-year deals. Nothing really extravagant. The Brewers, we talked about, they traded for Nestor Cortez, and then signed a couple other guys to 1-year deals. Nothing really groundbreaking there. The Cardinals, notable acquisitions, none. Paul Goldschmidt signs with the Yankees, and Andrew Kittredge signs with the Orioles. Now, there's rumors still that Nolan Arenado will be moved possibly as soon as tomorrow. He was the kind of plan B if the Red Sox did not sign Alex Bregman. So now that that's been inked, it's only a matter of time as to see where Arenado goes. Cubs were busy. They got the big trade for Kyle Tucker. They signed Matthew Boyd. They got Ryan Presley from the Astros. Filled a lot of voids here, and they were able to get away from Kyle Hendricks, which I'm pretty sure at this point in my life I can throw the ball just as hard as him. So it was just getting tiresome seeing him getting rocked, start after start after start. If you're a Cubs fan, you have to hope that young core of guys starts hitting consistently. See how Perez fits in with all of that. So TBD on them. The Pirates. This is kind of a, I guess stinker is the best word, but let's just call it as it is. This was a pile of shit. You had the best pitching prospect come in and make his major league debut, and pretty much take the whole baseball world, not even baseball world, the whole world by storm. And you, leading up to this, were saying, you know what, we're going to help bolster this roster behind Paul Skeens. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And the biggest deal you sign is you re-sign Andrew McCutchen. Damn. Signed Tommy Pham and Adam Frazier, who are going to be great trade pieces because this team's going to be selling before the trade deadline. And with that being said, how much longer is Jared Jones going to be there? How are you supposed to be bolstering this lineup around the greatest pitching prospect of my generation? And right now, you got him cheap. You got him cheap. Whether or not you're going to extend him, I have no idea. It's not a real Pirates thing to do. I hope they do, because let's be honest, if not, is he going to be a Yankee? Is he going to be a Dodger? Is he going to be a Met? I don't know. I don't know. I would really like to see him stay with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Stadium's fantastic. The best stadiums in the bigs. Put a fucking team around these guys. Put a team around them. And signing Kutch is not the answer. Is not the answer. The Reds had a rather odd offseason. They traded for Gavin Lux with the Dodgers because the Dodgers signed everybody, and Gavin Lux was just kind of the odd man out. You know, we talked about trading Jonathan India away. But as far as re-signing people, and I mean, really didn't do a whole lot. Really didn't do a whole lot. Let's jump over to the NL West and wrap this up. NL West get a big splash with Corbin Burns. They traded with the Guardians for Josh Naylor. They signed Randall Grichuk. And they signed Kendall Graveman. That's pretty much it. Pretty much it. But Corbin Burns was huge. And prior to him signing with the Diamondbacks, it was rumored that it would take $100 million to get him to play on the East Coast, which is why the Orioles really weren't a player in this whole deal. And then it came out that he was flying home in between starts to be with his family in Arizona. So instead of, doing the whole free agency thing, he calls the Diamondbacks and says, "Hey, I'd really like to come play with you. Here's my offer." And they said, "Okay, come on, let's go. Now let's talk about the evil empire in the Dodgers. Blake Snell kicks everything off with a 5-year deal with the Dodgers. They get Roki Sasaki, who was the top Japanese prospect. They re-signed Teoscar Hernandez. They signed Tanner Scott, probably the best left-handed reliever out there. They re-signed Clayton Kershaw. They signed Kim. They signed Kirby Yates, Michael Conforto, Blake Tryon. Kike Hernandez re-signs there. And the only people they lost were Walker Buehler, who signed with the Red Sox, Jack Flaherty, who went back with the Tigers, and they, like I said, they traded Gavin Lux. It's the only subtractions from this whole roster. Giants signed Willy Adames, which I totally forgot that they did that. And they signed Justin Verlander. Big splashes there. Padres signed Nick Pivetta, which is just one that just dropped either yesterday or the day before. They signed Connor Joe, Jason Hayward. Not a whole lot of. I mean, they had more subtractions than anything else. But the main thing here is there's still talk about more trades with the Padres. They had an owner who passed away, and now they're trying to dump payroll. So this is kind of where we're at with that team. Now, I would really, really like to see my Red Sox. I know it's not going to happen, but get in the mix with some of these possible trade partners with the Padres. So we keep an eye on the Padres because I have a feeling they're not done moving and shaking yet. Not even going to talk about the Rockies. The Rockies stink. The Rockies stink. So that's kind of the whole new faces, new places. So let's talk a little bit about spring training. Spring training has started. Spring training has started, and it's not from, and we're not immune from the whole, um, not on pretty much every team. It's the excitement. We're post Super Bowl now. It's time to flip the switch into baseball, especially for those of us that don't really get into hockey, don't really get into basketball. So it's kind of that start of spring, let's say, even though it's like 6 degrees out and it's blizzard outside here in Michigan. So it really doesn't feel like spring. But down in the where in Florida and in Arizona, it is spring training. Pitchers and catchers have showed up, as well as a lot of the position players. We've seen a lot of the new faces that we just talked about, new places show up to, you know, meet their teammates, get their workouts in, meet the staff. So it is becoming that time. It is becoming that time. And I can't wait for 2Ks to get back in the studio so we can give you our way too early picks, which now that we keep track of those, we can kind of be held a little bit more accountable. Last year we were terrible. So hopefully this year we'll get a little bit more right as we go down this list, but it's always a fun thing to do. It's always a fun thing to do, and let's be honest, you can't predict injuries, or nor do you really want to. So it's always fun. It's always fun. But yeah, it's I and of course there's always the news and notables. I mean, we had Marcus Stroman not show up to Yankees spring training, and he pretty much told people I don't have to be there till like February 22nd. So I'm not sure why everyone is all up in arms, even though the team left him off almost all except for the World Series postseason roster. He never threw a pitch in the World Series, so I could see how he'd be kind of pissed off. So that's definitely a storyline moving forward. We're getting to see a lot of dinged up players. We've seen some workout video from Mike Trout, which is always awesome. Like we've seen, I already mentioned Acuna just hitting the cover off the ball. So it's getting close. It's getting close, and I obviously, if you've been following the show for any amount of time, know that 2Ks and I absolutely love baseball. It is our first and foremost, our number one love, followed by football and then college basketball. Really don't fuck with the NBA, like we talked about. Really don't fuck with the NBA. And if I tell you what, if hockey was like this, um, Frozen Four or whatever the hell it's called, I mean, stuff that went down last night or yesterday with the United States and Canada, that was awesome. That was awesome. 3 fights within the first like 4 minutes or whatever it was. If hockey had that much enthusiasm throughout the whole season, count me on. I would be on board in a heartbeat. But it's to the point, and to be perfectly frank and transparent, it's not that I dislike hockey. I like going and watching hockey games is awesome. Hockey itself is awesome, but watching hockey on TV is so hard, so hard, and it has gotten better. Don't get me wrong, it has gotten better. We had the glow puck there for a while, which was just ridiculous. Which a lot of people don't know, that if that technology never becomes available or used in that scenario, we don't now those chips are put in NASCARs, and when you watch any of the races or the races, you see their name and their time and a little arrow that points down to their car, and it moves as it moves. Same technology. Don't know if you know that. But if we could somehow make hockey a better product on TV, that would give me that. Give me that. And like I said, play with all the emotion that the teams played with last night. Yes, count me in. Count me in. In Canada, maybe it wasn't such a good idea to boo during the national anthem because that got those boys going. That got those boys going. And add on top of that we were playing in Canada. It's a hard way. That's a hard L to take. That's a hard L to take for sure. For sure. Well, guys and gals, let me know aside from Soto, because Soto was above and beyond the top priority for a lot of teams. Now, granted, he should have been the top priority for every team, but we all know that not every team is going to be willing to foot the bill, $800 million. Aside from that, which is the most impactful free agent? I told you mine with Profar. I really like that signing. I'm really excited to see how he gels with that Braves outfield as well as that lineup. I can't wait for uh, Acuna to be back and that just that whole Braves roster to be back to where it was. Because rewind, not last year, year before, that team set records, set offensive records. Granted, didn't have the playoff success that they would hoped, but that offense was fantastic. And I can't wait to see if that's going to continue or be put back, kind of back in place, if you will, just because of the run that they had. How will are we going to see Acuna kind of go after that, 70-40 number again? Especially now that Otani went damn near 60-60. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And speaking of Otani, how moving forward, how big of a leash are the Dodgers going to have with him pitching? I've told you my thoughts on this wholeheartedly. I don't care what his payroll is. If you can give me the numbers that you gave me last year on a consistent basis, you're never pitching for me again. Why? Because look at the pitching staff that we just signed. You Otani is more valuable as that DH guy, both the power and the speed. He's more valuable to me in that role than as a number 2 or number 3 pitcher. And right now, I mean, they've got the 2 Japanese dudes. They got Blake Snell. I mean, they still have Glass now. And yes, they re-signed Kershaw, but Kershaw's not going to give him 30 starts this year. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. He probably signed a deal more of it to be a pitching coach, part-time coach, part-time player type thing. The days of Clayton Kershaw giving you 30 starts is out the window. So when you have those studs, why risk what Otani could do in the batter's box day in and day out by having him pitch? Yes, I know that's one of the reasons why it drove the price tag up for him. And I'm not saying I don't want to watch it. I'm just saying as if I'm a Dodger fan, I think his value comes more from hitting and running the bases than it does pitching. Like I said, especially with that pitching staff. He doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need to be a top 5 pitcher in baseball. Because right now, he might be the number 4 or number 5 starter on this team. We honestly don't know. I have a feeling that yes, he rehabbed all last year. So did he earn the right to kind of give this a go? Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, that's one of the main reasons you signed him. But after that performance last year with a bum arm, with a bum elbow, it's going to be he's must watch TV even as a hitter. I understand he is electric on the mound. And he's not going to be able to do this forever. So if I'm the Dodgers, I'm maximizing what I get as the DH now. I don't need to see him throw another pitch. I don't. Especially doing something that's never been done last year and not really being all that in the playoffs and you still win a World Series. Keep doing what you're doing, Shohei. I don't need to see you hit. I do not need to see you hit. Well, like I said, he's throwing off of a mound, which is encouraging. Hopefully he does get back to that. I'm not saying I don't want to see him pitch. I'm just saying if I'm the Dodgers, I don't need to see him pitch. Just a thought. Just a thought, and I have a very good feeling that this show is not going to be the only one that talks about this as the season moves forward. Just because they don't like I said, they don't need him to. They don't need him to. Well, 2K Crew, I'm going to get you out of here on that. Like I said, the roads are getting worse by the minute. Hopefully, everyone stays safe. Hopefully, everyone stays warm. I will see you next week, hopefully, with 2Ks sitting here side by side so we can do our way too early pick show. Everyone have a great week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.